Hello, friends. Oh my gosh, I forgot to check the coloration of my camera. Hold on. Okay, that's better. My hair looks real funky though, so we're taking it out of the braid. How are we doing, friends? Happy Thursday. Zlo, congrats on first. Hello, Kai. How y'all doing? Okay, hair out of the braid. Much better. Okay, my hair's still wet from washing earlier, but at least I don't look insane with just the bangs, like big poofy bangs. Okay, that works. I still feel like I look kind of insane, but it's fine. Finished Witch Hunt. Fun. What did you think of it? Was this your first time playing Witch Hunt? Hello, Chantel. How are you? Nah, you look gorgeous. Thank you. I didn't even put makeup on yet. I can't even begin to tell you guys how much I was rushing around before this stream. So, I guess a little quick preface before we dive in while I do my makeup. Y'all know Cindy, my mod, they were working on this project with me. An emergency came up and they're not able to be here tonight. Most likely not here for Saturday stream either. Not the end of the world. But it didn't help my stress because I wasn't done compiling the information for tonight's stream yet. So that's the reason why I'm starting stream an hour late. Because I wasn't done. I literally finished everything 2 minutes before hitting going live. Not the way I wanted things to go, but we're here and we're ready, I think. So it's been an interesting day. Oh, Kai, I'm sorry your cat's sick. I know, I saw the picture that you posted in Discord. I hope your cat's feeling a little better. Or at the very least gets better quickly. So I'm just gonna like really quick throw makeup on that I would have done off stream. First time it was fun. I'm so glad. So glad you enjoyed it. It's a really fun DLC. It's been a hot minute since I've played it. But and if you don't know what we're talking about as we say Witch Hunt, you should do two things. One, go play Dragon Age Origins Witch Hunt DLC. And two, go to my stream from this past Monday night and take a look at our lore stream and learn all about it. Little shameless plug. But I'm just gonna like quickly throw some makeup on my face, and then we're gonna dive in to the second game of this wonderful series. Also, I went back and forth tonight about whether I wanted to show the launch trailer for Veilguard because it just dropped today. Because we are one freaking week away. I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. Oh, why is my mascara doing this? But I decided that it felt like it would kind of like interrupt the flow of things. They're lore streams. So we're not going to watch the launch trailer tonight. We'll watch it next week on Thursday. Because why not? But we are going to watch Dragon Age 2's launch trailer because that's the game we're discussing tonight. Okay, give me just a second and we'll be good to go. How is everyone's day otherwise, though? Was a lazy day? Oh, I'm jealous. Tomorrow is maybe gonna be a lazy day for me. I have off from work tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. But I'm probably going to be working on a lot of this stuff for Inquisition. I have training tomorrow, so I have to go in the office. Ew, not fun. Don't love that. I'm so sorry to hear that. I was going to grab myself a sparkling water, but you know what? Regular water's good. So let me just take a sip. Or a few sips, you know. And who's ready for some Dragon Age 2 lore? I know I'm very excited. And we've got a new overlay today because we had a custom overlay for Dragon Age Origins on Monday. We got a new overlay for Dragon Age 2. But before we get there, we're going to watch the Dragon Age 2 trailer. Technically, I think on my work from home day, if I have to go to the office, then I can leave and drive back home to work. Okay. That's good. That's very good. All right, where... There it is. Okay, let me just put this in full screen. And we're gonna pause our music. And I think this is the scene I want. Yes, it is. All right. Y'all, let me... Oh, I should also make sure we have sound. Properties... There it is. Okay. Who's ready? Yeah, I hope you don't have to be in the office the whole day, Slow. That would suck. All right, y'all, we're ready for Dragon Age 2 launch trailer. This came out 13 years ago. My God. All right, here we go. I don't think I've seen this trailer.
War and death approach. You cannot evade it. You cannot deceive it. Claim your destiny, or be claimed by it.
The music. Dang. That's a great trailer. I've never seen that. So, that's the Dragon Age 2 trailer that everybody got for launch. It's okay. It's kind of one of those things where I wish so desperately that I could have been aware of these games when they came out. But also I'm glad I wasn't, because I could not have done the wait between all the games. Anyways, let me get some music back on. There we go. Some nice, light, cheerful music. And I think it's time for us to jump in to Dragon Age 2 lore. There we go. I feel like we got like a little bit of an inception of images here, but
He's the darkness.
yeah, the wait between the first three were not bad. It was just this wait was rough. Very rough. Hi, Darkness Queen. How are you? We're getting in. Just finished watching the Dragon Age 2 trailer, so now we're going to get into the lore itself. I do want to say too, I mentioned already like how rushed I was for tonight. If y'all see or don't see something that I should have included, please put it in chat, because there are surely things I'm gonna miss. Like I will say now, I didn't have time to compile romance specific stuff, but like the romance stuff I feel like in this game is not the same that it was with like you think about Dragon Age Origins. Romances had romance specific quests. Unless I'm misremembering, I don't really think there are romance specific quests in 2. So we're just gonna dive right in. I am gonna turn the music down just a touch more. Although, how's music level? How's music level? 2 was rushed. It was very rushed, and that's why they took so much time with this one, which I'm glad they did. I think they also had to like scrap it partway through and start over, didn't they? Like there was a chunk of time where it was like there was a chance it wasn't gonna happen. So yeah. I made sure to get my popcorn for this. Yes, love that. And I'm glad the music level is good, so we're gonna leave it as is. All right, Dragon Age 2. So kind of starting off with like a general world state. Dragon Age 2 begins about the same time that Origins begins. So it's when the Blight is starting. And it's kind of happening in tandem at first. Which we'll kind of like talk about the timing comparison as we go. But I think there was a coding generation switch that messed up Veilguard development. Yeah. Which honestly makes sense. So the game takes place in Kirkwall, which is in the Free Marches. I meant to include a map, but I forgot to grab the map image again. But that's okay. And Kirkwall being a free city-state in the Free Marches. The Free Marches are just south of Tevinter and Antiva. And being close to Tevinter means they were a part of the Tevinter Imperium at one point in time. Just gonna say your bangs are banging tonight. Thank you. I didn't feel like styling my hair curly, so I threw it in a braid and put my bangs in a roller. Anyways, so yeah, Kirkwall was at one point part of the Tevinter Imperium, and so they were there. There's a history in Kirkwall of it being a slaver city. Varric even makes a point, which we'll talk about Varric more, but as the narrator, Varric makes a point of stating that Kirkwall, first thing you see is the chains and the statues when you first enter Kirkwall through the port. So the big thing to note is that the Templar Order and the Circle of Magi are located in Kirkwall in what's called the Gallows, which is not ominous at all. It's all good. Here's an image of what Templar or what Kirkwall looks like when you enter. So you can see why people might think it looks really ominous, because it does. And politically they're ruled by a Viscount. They have their own governing system. Other city states have different systems, which we'll learn about a little bit more later. But the game starts off with a character we will all know and love later on. There's more of Kirkwall. Forgot about that. That's the Gallows. And there's Viscount Dumar. Didn't realize I had an image of him. All right, now here we go. Cassandra and Varric. I couldn't find a good image of the two of them with Cassandra facing the camera, so this is what we're working with. But at the start of the game, Cassandra is interrogating Varric. Varric serves as our narrator, and she's trying to find Hawke, our protagonist, for some unknown reason. We don't know what that is. And Varric begins by telling her the tale of how Hawke became the champion of Kirkwall. Of course, he's over-exaggerating. Varric is known to over-exaggerate all of the tales that he tells. And starts off with a story of Hawke defeating a bunch of Darkspawn and Ogre like it is absolutely nothing. But then we get to the real story because Cassandra's like, you're over-exaggerating. This is not real. And so we have Hawke. In this image, we have a femme Hawke. I always play as a femme Hawke personally, but you can also play as a male Hawke. And I think like the vast majority of people that have played this game prefer the default character creation where you just keep the first preset because the first preset is honestly pretty great. But the Hawke family consists of Hawke, and Hawke can be Hawke's default name is Marion as a female and Garrett as a male. Then you have Bethany, her sister or his sister. I'm gonna say her probably most of the time, or their. I'm gonna try to stay they them to be gender neutral, referring to both Hawks, but we'll see. And Carver is the brother, and then Leandra is their mother. Leandra is Leandra Amell, even though they're all Hawks, but Leandra is from Kirkwall actually originally. And fun fact, if you play as a human mage in Origins, your family has ties to the Hawke family. So you are a cousin, I believe, of the Hawke family. So it's a little fun fact for you. So at the beginning of the game, it's the same time that Origins is starting. They are from Lothering, and they're fleeing the Blight. So they're on the road, and they bump into Aveline and her husband Wesley. They're fighting some Darkspawn when the Hawke family comes across them. They join in, they help, they save them. And then they get into an even bigger fight with some Darkspawn, and they're on the struggle bus. An ogre literally picks up either Bethany or Carver and kills them. Which one gets killed is determined based on your class. If you play a mage, then Bethany's killed. And if you play a warrior or a rogue, then Carver gets killed. It's very unfortunate, but that is what happens. And then a dragon shows up and takes out the rest of the Darkspawn. This dragon then shapeshifts into Flemeth. Now, Flemeth had a bit of a glow up from Origins into Dragon Age 2. We love it for her. And she, in return for saving them, asks Hawke to take an amulet of hers to the top of Sundermount for a ritual. Now, if we're thinking about the timeline of the games, with this happening at the same time as Origins, we can assume that Flemeth sends Morrigan with the Warden and then instantly comes up here, which really is not far away, helps Hawke, and then heads back down to the Korcari Wilds, and clearly just uses different disguises with different people, maybe. That's the theory. That's my headcanon of it. But these are happening about the same time as the events of Origins, so. But after all that, Hawke agrees, yada, yada, yada. Aveline's husband dies from the taint. We travel by boat to Kirkwall. Upon arriving, Hawke asks for Uncle Gamlen. Guard says that they'll go after him, find him, and Gamlen tells Hawke and their siblings that they've been sold into indentured servitude for a year. They have the choice of be working with a mercenary group or a smuggling ring. Neither of them are really great. They don't make a huge difference though either, which one you go with. So that is kind of like the prologue to the game. And a year later, we see, and these are the leaders of the mercenary and smuggling rings. Year later, we see Hawke has made a name for themselves, and they've met Bartrand and Varric, and they're working to save up money to go on an expedition to the Deep Roads with both of them. Bartrand and Varric are brothers. Bartrand is the older brother and actually was born in and grew up in Orzammar for a bit. Varric was born on the surface later on after the family moved to Kirkwall. After meeting Bartrand and Varric for the first time, you can actually go and find Varric whenever you want down in the Hanged Man in Lowtown. This is where he resides for the game. And you can discuss with him, how are we going to get into the Deep Roads? What are we going to do? And Varric is like, hey, well, there's actually a Grey Warden in Kirkwall. Go find that Grey Warden. They might know a way in. That'd be pretty cool. And I will say from here, for Act 1, things are kind of in a mix and match kind of order. A lot of the main quests of the game can be completed in almost any order. So we're just going to kind of go through them in a way that feels like it flows. So the Hawke family is staying with Gamlen in his home in Lowtown. It's a pretty rough place. But Hawke learns about their grandfather's will. Gamlen was here in Kirkwall when Gamlen and Leandra's parents passed. Leandra wasn't able to come up to Kirkwall for the will reading or any of that, so Gamlen just took care of the family estate. We learned that Gamlen has a money issue, a gambling problem, and gambled it all away, sold the estate, and they have nothing. But the will is still located in the estate, in the Amell estate, in the vault. So there's hope to maybe get things back. And that's just something that's kind of going on in the background for a while. At any time after meeting Varric specifically, you can go and find, we're going to go back for a sec. You can actually go and find Aveline, in the Viscount Keep. The Viscount's Keep is where all the government stuff happens. Because she has joined the city guard. And she can kind of just offer Hawke various jobs at any point. Because the whole goal is that Hawke is trying to save up some money, I believe 50 sovereigns or 50 gold, to go on the Deep Roads expedition. So in order to make good on that promise to Flemeth, Hawke can go to the Dalish camp at Sundermount, and they actually get to speak and meet with Keeper Marethari. In Origins, Keeper Marethari is the keeper of the Dalish clan that the warden comes from if you're playing the Dalish elf origin. So this is that clan. And after meeting Marethari, you can meet Merrill, who is the first to the keeper. So she's one of the mages of the clan. And Marethari sends Merrill with Hawke and the party up Sundermount. And Merrill acts as your guide. She uses some blood magic along the way, which, no big deal. Blood magic is not an issue, of course. Never would be. There's some fighting the undead, getting through some magical barriers, and then you get to the ritual site where there's an altar, and Flemeth appears after Merrill does the ritual, saying that Hawke may have inadvertently saved Flemeth's life, which you can kind of make some assumptions and assume that this was probably happening around the time that Morrigan and the Warden go to kill Flemeth. And so maybe that's how Flemeth survives Origins. That might be how it happened. So it really wasn't just Flemeth saving Hawke. Hawke also saved Flemeth. After completing this ritual, and Merrill joins the party. Back in Kirkwall in the alienage, and Merrill also resides now in the alienage. She has a little apartment set up for herself. You can meet Ariani, and she discusses her son Fainriel. Her son is a half-elf. He is a mage, and he has a talent specifically for dreaming and walking and seeing other people's dreams. But his nightmares are getting worse, and she's always kept him hidden from the circle. So she asks you to go to 2 different people you can choose from. There's a Templar named Thrask, and there's Vincento, Fainriel's human father, who's also a merchant. So we have Thrask and we have Vincento. Vincento just kind of looks like a creep, in all honesty. But both of them, regardless of who you talk to, will suggest that you go and find a Templar named Samson, who's known to help runaway mages escape Kirkwall. Not a great looking dude either, honestly. Samson will send Hawke to find a ship captain, Rainier, down at the docks. And this kind of leads Hawke to a group of slavers in Darktown and Wounded Coast, where they find Fainriel, and Hawke can convince him to surrender to the Circle or seek refuge with the Dalish as Undermount. And the big concern with Sundermount, obviously, is Fainriel's a half-elf. He doesn't look like an elf. He doesn't have pointed ears. But the elves do accept him, which is, a big relief. After rescuing Fainriel, Hawke will have a letter waiting for them at home at Gamlen's house from Thrask. Again, Thrask is the one who sent one of the people that can send Hawke to Samson. And Thrask will indicate at the Wounded approach that he's searching for some apostate mages who fled the Starkhaven Circle and were transferring to Kirkwall. And he wants to bring them peacefully before worse Templars get their hands on them. And these mages can be found throughout the caves on the Wounded Coast, but some of them will resort to blood magic and attack Hawke. But one mage will come to Hawke and say, turning myself in, and Hawke can convince the Templars that this mage is dead or kill Thrask if they really want to. But regardless of the outcome, Thrask will be outside, and Sir Karis, a not-so-nice Templar, will be there waiting. And you can end things peacefully if you'd like, or end in combat with Sir Karis, and Thrask will help you at that point. Now, kind of backtracking a little bit, after learning about the Grey Warden from Varric, Hawke can go gather more information in Lowtown, which leads Hawke to Anders' clinic in Darktown. If you remember, Anders is from Awakening DLC of Origins, and he was a companion in that. And Anders offers to give Hawke a way into the Deep Roads, as long as they help him with his mage friend that is trying to escape from the gallows. So when they get to the Chantry to look for this friend, they find Carl. Oh, here's more of Anders. They find Carl has been made tranquil, and is unfortunately being used as bait to catch Anders. Anders gets angry, some Templars attack, and the Spirit of Justice overtakes. Once the Templars are defeated, Carl is lucid for a moment because of Justice's presence, and asks Anders to kill him because he doesn't want to live as tranquil anymore. And then back at Anders' clinic, Anders will fill Hawk in about Justice. And say, yeah, we've got it under control. Everything's fine. After helping Anders, Hawk then can help a woman named Matcha, who's searching for her missing brother. Her brother is a Templar recruit named Karen, and Hawk learns that Karen, along with other recruits, including someone named Wilmod, have gone missing, and Wilmod might be in a camp outside of Kirkwall. At Wilmod's camp, we encounter Cullen. Some of you might remember Cullen from Origins in the Circle of Magi. He was a Templar being tortured by some demons. But he's here intimidating Wilmod, and Wilmod gets agitated and turns into a shade, which is a type of demon. And a bunch of other abominations join in. There's a fight. Wilmod's dead. Cullen indicates that he was trying to get some information from Wilmod about the other missing recruits, and learns that they were at the Blooming Rose most recently. So Hawk goes there. Blooming Rose is like part of the Red Lantern district. Blooming Rose, Hawk learns from a lady there named Iduna that a lot of the Templars would come to see her, and she, rather than answering questions, she decides to just see if Hawk wants to have some fun. One of the companions of Hawk will fall under her charm and Iduna will actually try to kill Hawk. But Hawk breaks free of that spell and can choose to either kill her or send her to the Templars. But it's revealed that Iduna is a blood mage. She enchanted Wilmod and Karen and plenty of others and sent them to someone named Taroni, who implants demons into Templars to try to sow chaos. And I'm just realizing I'm not clicking through these slides as fast as I should. Here's Iduna. Lovely lady. So Hawk goes looking, finds the mage hideout, fights Taroni, and we see that she's holding Karen captive. After rescuing him and returning to the gallows and taking him back to his sister Matcha, Cullen can be persuaded to keep Karen in the order or discharge him, like an honorable discharge kind of thing, from his duties. So there's kind of like a third storyline going on with all of this. After kind of backtracking again, after completing the ritual with Flemeth, Hawk can meet this gentleman dwarf named Javaris Tintop, and he will ask Hawk to kill some Talvishoth out on the Wounded Coast to try to win the favor of the Kunari in Kirkwall, specifically the Arashok, the leader of the Kunari. He's trying to get the trading rights to black powder, which is an explosive that the Kunari kind of have like a secret recipe for. Heads up, we have an ad starting in a moment too. And this black powder doesn't require magic or lyrium, which is like revolutionary to a lot of people. Back at the docks though, after this, the Arashok is like, oh, there was never a deal here. This is not, I can't honor this, blah, blah, blah. Javaris gets upset, leaves, but a fairly decent relationship can be established between the Arashok and Hawk, kind of settling things for a bit. And shortly after this, Hawk can rescue a young woman named Sister Patrice in Lowtown. She's mid-mugging, and Hawk can rescue her. And she'll invite Hawk back to her safe house, where she introduces you to Katogen. Katogen is her name for a mage Kunari, or a Cerebos. And she wants you to lead Katogen to freedom outside the city through an underground passage. So you can, if you agree, you can take Katogen out through the tunnels, battling through thugs and all sorts of other enemies in the tunnels. You run into a group of Kunari out on the Wounded Coast. The Arvarad, who's considered like a handler of Cerebos, states that because Katogen has not been with his handler for quite some time, he may have been corrupted by demons and therefore is required by the Qun to die. Hawk has the choice of returning Katogen to the Arvarad or protecting Katogen. Whether you return Katogen or not, there will be a fight between the Arvarad and Hawk. And Katogen will either die at the hands of the Kunari or set himself on fire to return himself to the Qun. And then the very last quest that can happen before the expedition to the Deep Roads is something that's kind of optional. You can do it if you don't have enough money to buy into the Deep Roads expedition. A dwarf named Dougal will basically just say, hey, I've got money, I'll split your portion of the proceeds. But you don't have to do it. If you want the money, you don't have to do it, you know? So then we get to the Deep Roads expedition. So once Hawk, actually, I'm gonna take a sip of water for a sec. Welcome back from the ads, everybody. All right. So once Hawk has acquired 50 gold or 50 sovereigns and has completed all of the other main story quests, they can go to Bartrand and say, hey, I got the money, let's do this. Bartrand's like, are you sure? You sure about that? But once you are set, yeah, yes, sure, I'm ready to go, Leandra, Hawk's mother, will show up and try to persuade Hawk to not bring their sibling, whether it's Bethany or Carver, because she's worried that something bad's just going to happen in the Deep Roads. And this will happen whether or not you're planning to bring Bethany or Carver. It's just a mother being worried and scared. And from there, then you can convince Bethany or Carver to stay behind, or you can choose to bring them with you. Ominous foreshadowing, I know. But once you're in the Deep Roads, the expedition will make camp because there's a blockage in the path. And Bartrand will be like, hey, go clear the path ahead. Unfortunately, before you do that, Bodan comes up to you, which I totally forgot to mention. You can find Bodan and Sandal from Origins in Hightown in Kirkwall. They're in the Merchants Guild section of Hightown, hawking their wares, Sandal offering enchantment, and they come and join the expedition, which is just a wonderful time. Enchantment. But yeah, Sandal goes missing in the Deep Roads, which is not ideal. So while looking for a way through the Deep Roads, Hawk can also look for Sandal. When Hawk finds Sandal, there are a ton of dead darkspawn around him, and everyone's like, what? Sandal, you don't really talk, you just enchant runes, what's going on here? Turns out Sandal is just really good with runes and used enchantment to destroy the Darkspawn. And then you see a giant frozen ogre. And Sandal says not enchantment, which is real ominous, leads to a lot of questions that we'll get into in Inquisition. But yeah, there's that ogre. What a cheery sight. Yeah, Sandal don't play. There's always dead Darkspawn around him. Always. But so after you find Sandal and return to Bartrand, Hawke and co come across an undiscovered tag. In this undiscovered tag, there's a lot of treasure and whatnot, but the party specifically finds what they call a pure Illyrium idol. But I would say it's anything but pure. Bartrand snags it, and it has a very sudden personality shift. He essentially locks the party, including his own brother Varric, in the tag, and leaves them to die. And he's like, I don't want to split my shares. I'm taking all the money. So then Hawke and party can find an alternate way out. They get a lot more treasure and a lot more loot that way. So it worked out really well for them. Now, along the way of getting out, if Hawke's sibling is in the party, so if Bethany or Carver are in the party, they will collapse due to symptoms of the Darkspawn taint. And they will die. Unless you have Anders in the party as well. If Anders is there, he'll say, hey, look, there's some other wardens nearby. And that's how I got the entrance to the Deep Roads in the first place. Let's go find Stroud. Stroud will save Hawke's sibling by taking them to go undertake the joining, which saves their lives. Otherwise, again, they die. Now, if Hawke's sibling doesn't come in the Deep Roads with them, Bethany, if you have Bethany as a sibling, she will be discovered by Templars while you're away and be taken to the Circle. Specifically, Cullen will escort her to the gallows. And if you have Carver, he joins the Templars out of choice, either in spite of Hawke or to step out of their shadow, depending on your relationship with Carver. So a couple extra things in Act 1, aside from main story, mostly are like companion quests. So first we have Sebastian. Sebastian is a companion you get from the Exiled Prince DLC. He is a member of the royal family of Starkhaven, but serves as a chantry brother. So you learn from Sebastian that after the murder of his family by the Flint Company mercenaries, he's trying to do what he can to avenge his family, and you find him arguing with Grand Cleric Althena about posting a reward to whoever avenges his family. If Hawke takes him up on that, then after destroying the Flint Company, Sebastian will thank Hawke and go off on his own to go petition to the Viscount for some aid in retaking Starkhaven. And that's the last of we see of Sebastian for Act 1. Another lovely companion, probably my favorite, is Fenris. Love Fenris so much. So we meet Fenris through another person. So Hawke is asked by a dwarf named Anso to go retrieve some property of his in Lowtown. And in the process, Hawke learns that it's a setup because there's nothing there. Hawke steps back out and is ambushed. And then Fenris kind of walks in and saves the day a bit by taking out the last couple guys. And we learn that he was using Anso as bait to lure some bounty hunters his way that were hired by his former master, a Tevinter magister named Daenerys. And at this point, Fenris will ask Hawke for some help in getting through Daenerys' mansion in Hightown so that he can confront him but it ends up being that Daenerys just isn't there. But because the mansion is now empty, Fenris will take up residence, and it becomes his place. Unofficially, but it's his place. Then we come to Isabella. She is who I'm currently romancing in Dragon Age 2. Love her so much. She is someone you can also meet in Origins. She has a bit of a glow up going into this game. But she is found in the Hanged Man, the tavern that's in Lowtown. And she can be seen brawling with a gentleman named Lucky and all of his buddies. When Hawke speaks with her, she asks them to back her up in a duel with an acquaintance from Antiva named Hader, who worked with someone that's out to get her named Castillon. While dealing with Hader, Hawke also learns that Isabella is trying to reclaim some unnamed relic, but really doesn't get more information than that. And then going back to Aveline, who we met at the beginning of the game. Again, Aveline will kind of be like, hey, I need you to do a few jobs for me. But there's one particular job where she asks Hawke to help with taking out a caravan of raiders in Sundermount. And when they get back, the guard captain Jevin, so Aveline's boss, gets really angry with her, accuses her of showboating and, just not being a good guard, which is crazy. And that makes her suspicious of him. After further investigation, and then also saving another guardsman named Donick in Lowtown from some attackers, Aveline learns that Jevin was selling secrets about the Viscount and Kirkwall to the Coterie. Coterie is one of the gangs in the Free Marches, so not really good. Jevin gets arrested, and then Seneschal Bran, the assistant to the Viscount, promotes Aveline to the role of guard captain, so she is now in charge of the guard. And then there are just a couple other quests that are not companion or main quest that are kind of important to the story.
Dude, I got some
Hey,
banana bread at work
it's
today,
okay.
dude.
I appreciate the lurk.
Hell
I
yeah.
appreciate you being here. Thanks. So then we have the first sacrifice quest, which is it's technically like a side quest, but it's very important to the game. Hawke finds a wanted poster from a man named Ghislaine de Carac, who's looking for his wife Nanette. And he's like, hey, go talk to this person at the Blooming Rose. She may have been hanging out with other men. And after investigating, we're thinking, Nanette left her husband. We go to Darktown to talk to a Templar named Emmerich, who might know more. Emmerich, we find him being attacked by some thugs. Party saves him, and we find out he's actually investigating the disappearance of several women. And the trail leads to the foundry in Lowtown. And in the foundry, let's see, do I have a picture of the foundry? I do not. So we're just going to stick with a picture of Emmerich. In the foundry, there's a mage that just kind of like runs off, and the party is attacked by some demons. Kind of sketchy. And then when the fight dies down, we see a skeleton with Nanette's ring on it. So we grab the ring, we go back to Emmerich, and then we can find Nanette's husband Ghislaine and give him the ring. And he can either refuse the ring or send the ring back to her family. And then you have the option to inform the people at the Blooming Rose as well if you want of her death. And then we do have one other very important quest where the Viscount's son has gone missing. The Viscount sends everyone to... What'd you forget, Slow? What'd you forget? The Viscount directs the party to the Wounded Coast, and they discover Seamus is arguing with a woman named Jinnis, because she killed a Kunari named Ashad. Went back to the Blooming Rose and indulged instead of informing. Oh no! Listen, that's probably something I would do too. I wouldn't remember. But yeah, so she killed a Kunari named Ashad. Seamus is really pissed because he was friends with Ashad. And this is clearly a misunderstanding. Everyone thought that he was captured by the Kunari, but he was just friends with them. So after convincing Seamus to return to the Viscount, he makes a little bit of a snarky comment towards Jinnis, which prompts a fight. And Jinnis, I believe her entire like mercenary company had originally signed on to be like, yeah, I'll go find Seamus. And Seamus did not want to go back with her. He wanted to go back with Hawke instead. And so when they go back to the Viscount, Seamus kind of starts arguing with his father about how the Kunari are not being treated well, and Hawke can either support Seamus and show some respect to the Kunari, or support the Viscount in a way that sees puts a really negative view on the Kunari. Hawke can also take a neutral stance, but I don't really know that it does anything. So that is Act 1 of Dragon Age 2. There's a lot of very disjointed things happening in the city, which, I mean, at any given time, not a lot of things are related to each other, which makes sense. And then we get into Act 2. Once this is all done, and again, all of this stuff happens before the Deep Roads. So at the end of the Deep Roads expedition, when everyone gets back, we cut to Cassandra. And she's talking with Hawke, or with Varric again, saying, oh, the fate of Hawke's sibling isn't connected to this then. You know, we thought that there was a connection here, but maybe not. And then we pick up back with Hawke 3 years after the expedition to the Deep Roads. And she and her mom have a nice place in Hightown now. It is her mother's estate, the Amell estate, now known as the Hawke estate. Kunari tensions in Kirkwall are kind of at an all-time high. And then, fun little fact, Sandal and Vodin live with Hawke, and it's really sweet. So there are a few different things happening throughout this act, primarily stuff with the Kunari though. One of the first things you can do is go to Viscount Dumar, and he'll tell Hawke that the Arishok wants to speak with Hawke personally. So at the Kunari compound, the Arishok explains that Javaris Tintop, that little dwarf that was like, hey, we're going to make a deal with the Kunari, has stolen the formula from what he thinks is Gatlock, but it's actually Sarkamek. Gatlock is an explosive powder, or black powder. And Sarkamek is a poison gas that doesn't do anything to Kunari, but it does to humans and elves and dwarves. And Hawke learns that it kind of makes people go crazy and turn on each other, while also poisoning them. So very fun stuff. In Darktown, while Hawke is investigating, a member of the coterie says that Javaris has skipped town, using the tunnels. And when Hawke catches up to Javaris, they learn that an elf is actually framing Javaris for stealing the fake Gatlock. And so Hawke can either kill Javaris or let him go, and then Hawke will come across this elf that framed him in Lowtown, where the poison gas is already set up. After defeating this elf, Hawk can return to the Airshok, fill him in, and then that's when Hawk learns that the Kunari are not leaving anytime soon unless they can get a specific item he's been trying to retrieve. He just cannot go back to Parvalon without it. Meanwhile, in the Gallows, we come back to Emmerich, who has asked Hawk to gather some evidence about the missing women. He was investigating a little bit before, but now he really feels like he's got a guy, pegged as the murderer. So he says, go to Gasgard Dupuis, because I'm pretty sure he's the one that's guilty. And so when you get to Gasgard's estate, there's demons everywhere, which is like, okay, this guy's got to be guilty, right? Well, when you find Gasgard, he's with another woman. She's clearly upset. He's looking real guilty. But he claims he's actually trying to track down the murderer because his sister was one of the victims. And she's like, no, he's hurting me. He's trying to take me away and murder me. But he explains that the victims have been courted by the murderer and sent white flowers, and so he's trying to lure the murderer here so he can take care of the murderer himself. So you can either, as Hawk, you can choose to let him go, or you can fight him, whether you believe him or not. And when you go back to the Gallows to find Emmerich is not there. There's another Templar that says, oh, Emmerich got a letter from you, and you clearly didn't send him a letter. And you realize that the murderer has lured Emmerich into a trap. Hawk unfortunately finds Emmerich's body along with another bunch of other demons, and you can choose to implicate Gasgard or not, depending on whether you believed he could be the murderer. So I know me and my girlfriend have a pretty big issue at the moment. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. If you need to talk anything out, feel free to DM me. All right, so back to the Kunari conflict. Seneschal Brand, who again works for the Viscount, has asked Hawk to speak with a guard in the Hanged Man, and this guard, we learn, has allowed a Kunari delegate and his entourage to be abducted after meeting with the Viscount. Oh, no, you're fine. You're totally fine. And this meeting was supposed to alleviate tensions with the city and the Kunari, but now they've been abducted. It's kind of up in the air. Aveline will help Hawk, and they learn that the guard Orwald the Braggart was under orders from a Templar, bearing the Grand Cleric's seal. So supposedly Chantry sanctioned, maybe? Hawk heads to the Chantry and finds none other than Patrice, the one who was with Katogen in Act 1. And she sets up a meeting to hand over the offending Templar. She's like, hey, well, let's go catch him in the act. She's playing innocent. So we find Varnell, the Templar, with all these Kunari chained up in, I believe it's somewhere in Darktown, in some of the tunnels. And Hawk can choose to support Varnell if they want to kind of just get rid of the Kunari, or they can choose to support the Kunari. Unfortunately, the Kunari die regardless. You can fight Varnell. And then the Viscount shows up because he's concerned about this whole situation. He sees the bodies, and Hawk can either choose to have him burn the bodies and hide everything, or let the Airshok know what's happened to try to earn the Airshok's respect. I personally always try to tell the Airshok because I don't want to fan the flames any further. And then the gut-wrenching quest of Act 2. Obviously Kunari tensions that are high, but we're also dealing with a murder investigation. At some point, Hawk gets back to their estate, and Uncle Gamlen's there, looking for Leandra because they have a weekly meeting together. No one can find Leandra, and Boden's like, oh, maybe she's with her suitor. Her suitor brought over some white lilies for her later. And that's when it starts to sink in. Leandra was probably taken by the murderer. The investigation to find her leads to the basement of the foundry in Lowtown, where a blood mage named Quentin has made a shrine to his dead wife. And he's been taking all of the women that he's abducted and murdered and piecing them together, various body parts, piecing them together to recreate his bride. And unfortunately, Leandra had his bride's face, and so she was his final victim. Gascard Dupuis, who was the suspect previously, can assist if you've assumed that he's innocent so far. But Hawke will fight this mage, Quentin, along with a bunch of demons and desire demons. And before Leandra dies, she tells Hawke just how proud she is of them. It's a very sad scene. A lot of the companions afterward will comment and offer their condolences. But it is probably one of the most heart-wrenching quests of this game. And then we get back to the Qunari conflict again, because we got a lot going on. And Seamus, the Viscount's son, decided to convert to the Qun. Well, the Viscount's worried that it was just a political ruse. And so Hawke goes to the Qunari. The Arishok says, oh, Seamus converted. But also he got a letter asking to... Seamus got a letter from the Viscount, which doesn't make sense because Viscount reached out to us to find Seamus. But saying that Seamus should go to the Chantry. And the Arishok suspects foul play from none other than Patrice. So we get to the Chantry and Seamus is dead. Depending on past choices with Patrice, she will either try to frame Hawke for the murder or frame the Qunari for the murder. Regardless, a fight breaks out. Patrice dies. It's gruesome. And then Isabella will also reach out at some point to indicate she has found the relic that she lost, and needs your help because Castillon is still pursuing her. And after finding a friend is a loose term, named Wall-Eyed Sam in Lowtown, a fight breaks out against some Qunari. And the relic that she had stolen is none other than a tome written by Ashkari Koslin. He is the founder of the Qun, and this tome is the Tome of Koslin. And this is the thing that the Qunari have been waiting for so that they can leave Kirkwall. Hawke can decide to either recover the tome for Isabella or for the Arishok. But Isabella will run off and then find a letter on Sam's corpse saying, I'm so sorry, I need the tome, I'm leaving. And Isabella is no longer part of the party and cannot be used as a companion, unfortunately. Well, all of this ramps up. The Arishok doesn't know that the tome has been found, but Aveline asks Hawke to come with her to the Qunari and the Arishok specifically because there are two elves who were wanted for murder who have supposedly sought refuge and joined the Qun. The Arishok is offended that they would come searching for these criminals because they're part of the Qun now. And he just decides, you know what? Screw it. Kirkwall doesn't deserve our kindness. We're taking over. So Hawke fights their way through Kirkwall, and then suddenly finds Meredith and Orsino. I don't have an image of Meredith and Orsino right now. That's okay. Finds Meredith and Orsino. Meredith is the Knight Commander of the Templars, and Orsino is the head enchanter of the circle. They assist with getting into the Viscount's Keep to go after the Arishok. If Bethany / Carver joined the Wardens, you'll run into them with some Wardens in Lowtown. And if Carver joined the Templars, you'll run into him with Meredith. In the Viscount's Keep, the Arishok throws the Viscount's severed head onto the floor. I'm on the Arishok side on this one. That's so fair. No, we have to do story-wise, but we're not wrong with the elves. You're absolutely right. I 100% agree. But yeah, so Viscount is dead now, and there's a couple different ways you can settle things with the Arishok. You can choose to duel one-on-one with the Arishok. You can choose to have the entire party battle with the Qunari. And if Isabella was recruited as a companion, and you romanced her or you had really good high approval with her, she'll bring the Tome of Kosloon back. Because she's like, I felt really guilty. I didn't even get that far. I turned around, came back, brought the Tome back because it was the right thing to do. Look at what you're doing to me. You're a bad influence on me, yada, yada, yada. And then the Arishok will, of course, demand that the Tome be returned and that they take Isabella with them back to Parvalin for judgment. So at that point, Hawke can choose to turn her over or can choose to keep her here in Kirkwall and duel or battle the Arishok. After Hawke wins, all the Qunari will leave Kirkwall, but they vow to return eventually. Very ominous. Meredith and Orsino rush in. Meredith is shocked that you ended the fight so quickly, but names Hawke the champion of Kirkwall. Yay! Couple miscellaneous things, some companion quests, some side quests. I think mostly companion quests at this point. Back to Sebastian for a hot second. So he fully becomes a companion in Act 2, and he's discovered that a noble family, the Harrimans, were the ones who hired the Flint Company to massacre his family. They're an old Kirkwall noble family, and they used to be allied with Sebastian Vale's family in Starkhaven. When they go to the Harrimans to just be like, hey, what's going on? They discover a desire demon has corrupted the Harriman family and drove Lady Johanna Harriman crazy to the point where she became obsessed with seizing Starkhaven for herself. So there's no choice but to kill her and the desire demon. And Sebastian then has to make a choice about whether he wants to remain with the Chantry or try to go back to Starkhaven and take it for himself and become the Prince of Starkhaven. Hawke can influence this as well, but Sebastian is typically a pretty unpopular companion. So, then with Fenris, there's the Desire Demon, by the way. Love her. With Fenris, we left off with him taking over Daenerys' estate. At any point, if you go outside of Kirkwall with Fenris, Hadriana, Daenerys' apprentice, will show up and try to capture Fenris for Daenerys. She informs him that he has a sister. Fenris doesn't really know what to believe her or not and kills her. Then he explains to Hawke, hey, I had a past where I was actually free from Daenerys for a bit. I lived with the Fog Warriors up in Saharan. We lived peacefully, but then when Daenerys found him again, he ordered Fenris to kill the Fog Warriors. It was really sad. Fenris kind of looks back and regrets it, and just another reason for him to go after Daenerys and stop him. Then my absolute favorite companion quest of Act 2. Aveline is trying to court one of her subordinates, Guardsman Donnick. So she tries wooing him with gifts, but he's just confused. She has Hawke take him out for a drink at the Hanged Man, with the intention of joining partway through. I mean, like, oh, fancy seeing you here. She chickens out though. And then she finally says, hey, I'll set up a patrol schedule where we're on a patrol together. But Hawk, I need you to make sure the patrol is actually safe so that we can walk and talk and not be distracted by other things. And Donnick's just about had it. He's like, this is ridiculous. I'm going home. And of course, Aveline's worried that she's gonna be like reported for harassment or something, but it turns out Donnick kind of has the hots for her too, and it all works out. And then we've got Meryl. We learned from her about an Illuvian that she has. It's the same Illuvian that was tainted in the Dalish elf Origins. Say that 5 times fast. So she's realizing she needs a special dagger called an Irulanholm to try to get this Illuvian to work. She goes to Keeper Marethari and she says, if you can kill this Vartarel, which is I believe an elven, a guardian made by an elven god to protect elves, and protect, the regions they live in. But this Vartarel is killing the clan's hunters. So Marethari says, hey, go kill this for me, and then I'll consider giving you the Irulanholm. When it's all said and done, the keeper kind of is like, I don't know. How about I give the Irulanholm to Hawk instead? And Hawk, you decide what to do with it. So you can choose to give it to Meryl or not at that point. And then we have Anders. There's the Vartarel. With Anders, he's discovered a plot to turn all Kirkwall mages tranquil by a specific Templar named Sir Ulrich. So he's like, hey, let's go stop this. Hawk, I need your help. In the process, justice kind of takes over and turns into vengeance. And he gets so angry and riled up, he almost kills the mage that they're trying to save. He's freaked out. He feels like he's turned into a monster. And after speaking with Hawk, he can actually go to the Grand Cleric with the hopes of trying to convince her to act on behalf of the mages. Not almost in my playthrough. Yeah, that's right. That he can kill her. That's... Forgot about that. I think I've always successfully kept her alive somehow, but yeah, that's Anders is struggling. And then we have back to Varric. He has discovered that Bartrand is back in town and wants to go pay him a visit. So Hawk goes with them, and they discover Bartrand has gone insane. He's very hostile. He's torturing all the people that live in his home, his servants, his employees. Fight breaks out, and they learn from another dwarf that Bartrand's been hearing voices, and claims the lyrium idol was singing to him even after he sold it. So Hawk then can kill Bartrand or spare him, saying that his descent into madness is punishment enough. And Zlo, so true. I prefer his original telling of the story. Yeah, the first time when you first get there, Varric's like, yeah, I did this all by myself with Bianca. But also, why? I thought I fixed this image. This was not supposed to be that image. That was supposed to be a different image. But that's okay. That's neither here nor there. It's supposed to be an image of Bartrand like laying on the floor, curled up, all scared, but that's okay. Couple other things, some DLC things that I feel like fit really well after Act 2. First off, there's the Black Emporium. The Black Emporium is a DLC specifically for shopping, because who doesn't love shopping? Black Emporium can also be found in Dragon Age Inquisition, but it is a secret shop in Kirkwall that specializes in unique items, run by Xenon the Antiquarian. And through, I believe, codex entries, you learn that he made a deal with a witch for eternal life, but he forgot to ask for eternal youth. So he's gonna live forever. He's just gonna look old as all get out. He's 300 years or so right now, and he looks it. So, a couple things you can find in the Black Emporium. There's a golem there to provide security. There's a little urchin child, you can see him right here, who is a mute orphan assistant. And then there's the Mirror of Transformation, which you can use to customize Hawke's portrait. You can't customize Hawke's appearance that I know of, just the portrait that shows up on your character information. But then in Inquisition, you can customize your actual appearance. The other DLC I want to talk about now, we'll get to the other one later, is Mark of the Assassin. Mark of the Assassin involves a character named Talus. So we're actually going to talk about her backstory first. But I'm going to actually wait a second since we got an ad break. And this is my favorite part to talk about, I think, because most people don't know about this. So we'll wait a minute for the ads to finish to talk about this a bit. I feel like I'm like flying through this, which honestly is not a bad thing considering how tired I am. So, took a break from that DLC to do Witch Hunt. Love it. All right, well, ads are almost done. But while the ads finish out, anyone that's able to see what's happening, thoughts or questions so far on Dragon Age 2? Is there anything I've forgotten so far? Because I feel like I probably have. My 122nd ad was only 15 seconds. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. Well, welcome back from the ads, everybody. Not that I can remember. Okay, cool. I'll take that. So before we actually get into Mark of the Assassin, we're going to talk about Dragon Age Redemption. Dragon Age Redemption is a mini web series. It's only 6 episodes long. You can find it all on YouTube. I believe if you go to the fandom wiki site, there are actual links to all of the episodes. It's a very short watch. You can watch the whole thing in like, I don't know, a couple of hours. But this follows Talus, an elf who is part of the Qunari. She's played by Felicia Day, who, if you don't know this about her, she is a huge nerd. She loves Dragon Age. She loves like D&D, all that good stuff. So she was more than happy to do this. This takes place, I believe, like just before the Mark of the Assassin DLC. So it's sometime during Dragon Age 2 is when this takes place. It's in the Free Marches, and Talus is initially referred to as Athlock, because Talus is actually a title within the Qunari, as is Athlock. And she is hunting a renegade Cerebos, and in so doing, she hopes to earn back the title of Talus, but she refers to herself as Talus the whole time. And if she doesn't find this Cerebos, she's at risk of being permanently demoted to Athlock, without any hope of becoming Talus again. So this is going to be a brief overview of the show. If you've not watched it, I highly recommend watching it. Basically, again, she's searching for the Cerebos, and she runs into a Templar named Cairn, who's also looking for the Cerebos. The Cerebos had been captured and imprisoned in Kirkwall by the Templars, but broke out. And you know, they have some spats, but they had to work together. They visit a Dalish camp that was attacked by the Cerebos. And while there, they meet a mage named Josmail. And Josmail is actually the first to the Keeper. And he tells them that the Cerebos took his fiancée Fina, as well as the mask of Fen Harel. Little note to self. This is a Dalish artifact that their clan holds, and that was also stolen. So Josmail joins up with Talus and Cairn, and he makes himself useful because he has a lot of healing spells that he learned from his uncle, who is the Keeper. Unfortunately, his uncle was also captured by Templars in Kirkwall and is being held wherever the Cerebos was being held. Unfortunately, Cairn then informs him, oh, the Keeper died. The Cerebos killed him when escaping because he learned about the mask from the Keeper. So then they come across the Cerebos super early. They come across the Cerebos in a cave performing a ritual with the mask and with Fina's blood. So of course Josmail is like, oh my gosh, my fiance, the mask, I need both of those back. Battle breaks out and Cerebos escapes with Fina and the mask. There's a cave-in with this cave. They get trapped in there, the three of them, as well as Nairi, a Reaver that was working with the Cerebos. And Reavers, fun fact, are warriors who get powers and strength from drinking dragon's blood. But so they interrogate her about the Cerebos, and they actually hire her as a mercenary to work with them. And they head to Sundermount, where Cerebos is headed to basically, they're trying to stop his blood magic ritual. Along the way, Cairn reveals that the reason the Cerebos escaped in the first place, killed the Keeper, took Fina and the mask, and is doing this ritual, is because, Cerebos was perfectly good in the prison, and then Cairn was like, you know what? No, I need to go kill the Cerebos because the Cerebos killed my family when the Qunari landed in Kirkwall. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Josmail's not happy about that. But with all of this, they've learned then that suddenly Josmail has slipped away to go rescue Fina, without the rest of the party noticing. When they finally catch up to him at Sundermount, we see Mythal's altar, the altar that Merrill uses with the amulet to bring Flemeth to Sundermount. It's the exact same place. And the Cerebos then arrives and places the mask on the altar and is about to start. And Fina sees everybody and gives their locations away. And it turns out she was working with the Cerebos and betrayed Josmail. She tries to convince Josmail to join and say, hey, you can get a lot of power with this blood magic. But fighting breaks out. Talus ends up shattering the mask, which disrupts the blood magic ritual. Unfortunately, there's some casualties in this fight. Cairn, the Templar, dies. Fina, Josmail's fiance, dies. But ultimately, the Cerebos is defeated. People go back to their lives. Talus becomes Talus again. And then we see her in Dragon Age 2. She comes up to Hawke in Hightown, asking for their help with infiltrating the Chateau Hain, an Orlesian estate outside of Kirkwall. And she wants help stealing a precious relic of some sort. At the estate, there's some festivities going on that begin with the Wyvern Hunt. If you guys saw my stream of this last week, we were working on this last week. A bunch of other nobles are also trying to hunt this wyvern. Hawke is hoping to gain some information from other people and also just get through the Wyvern Hunt so they can get to the actual chateau. Unfortunately, some of the other nobles are like, hey, you stole our kill. We're going to steal it back, even though Hawke did kill the wyvern first. But back at the chateau, Hawke and Talus can socialize with all the nobles as they attempt to find a way inside. And once inside, they can choose to be stealthy or fight their way through. If they're going the stealthy route, they have to stay out of sight of all of the guards, which is not easy. Your progress gets reset every time you get discovered. If you go the fighting route, you've just got to make sure you kill every single guard. Talus does not like that, though. So I personally always go for the stealthy route. But as they're going through, they make their way to the vault. And Duke Prosper, the gentleman that's been hosting the festivities with all the other nobles, reveals to Hawke that Talus is an assassin from the Qunari. Hawke's like, okay, cool, whatever. But they get thrown in the dungeon. Talus reveals more information that she's part of the Ben Hassrath, and she's trying to prevent a Tal Vashoth from selling Qunari secrets to Orlais. And this is not, she's not here on any orders from the Ben Hassrath. She's doing this of her own volition. So she doesn't know for sure that this will be a good thing for her, but she's trying. They break out of the dungeon and meet up with their other 2 party members. You can have any 2 party members with you. And once they're actually in the vaults, they fight with Duke Prosper's men. And then they have to solve a ton of puzzles to get through the vaults, and there's lots of treasure along the way. So who doesn't love that? After making their way through some tunnels from the vaults, they find themselves outside. But before that, Hawke can choose to continue helping Talus or say, hey, this is not my problem, I'm out. Regardless, there are some more Tal Vashoth to fight or hunters and wyverns to fight. And once outside, Hawke and Talus end up meeting again regardless. The Tal Vashoth that Talus was after ends up being killed by Duke Prosper. And then they have to fight Duke Prosper and his pet wyvern, Leopold. But once that's done, Talus has accomplished what she set out to accomplish. So, all good at the end of the day. So a lot of people like to play that that DLC quest during Act 2 or the early Act 3. So that's why I talked about it here. But it can really be played anytime in the game. So after Act 2 and the Qunari mini invasion that was taken care of by Hawke, we have another 3-year time skip. And we're back to Cassandra and Varric chatting it up. Really, Cassandra interrogating Varric. So she's started to believe that Varric has been telling the truth. Because, she thought that Varric was a liar the whole time. And honestly, he probably has been lying about a lot of this. But who's to say? But so she starts to believe that Varric's actually telling the truth. That, Hawke is just trying to do good things. And so she's like, okay, give me the truth. I'm not going to believe the lies I've heard. Just give me the straight up truth. So Varric tells her, first off, after the Viscount's death, Meredith kind of took over, turned Kirkwall into a bit of a Templar-controlled police state. Not great. And the Circle is being oppressed more than ever. So we open Act 3 with Meredith and Orsino arguing like crazy outside the Viscount's keep about how there's a lack of respect for the mages. They're not being treated well. And also, it's been 3 years. Why don't we have a new Viscount yet? Hawke can show up and choose a side between the 2 of them. But then Grand Cleric Elfina will come outside, break it up, disperse the crowd. So there's a few things that happen throughout this act. most of it is involving Meredith and Orsino. The first big thing, Meredith will actually ask Hawk to go after some missing mages. And there are 3 specifically. There's Meredith a little bit up close more. Huon, Emil, and Evelina. All of these mages have gone missing, and 2 of them, unfortunately, don't make it because they attack Hawk. They don't want to go back to the gallows, which I don't blame them. I don't think Hawk blames them either. The 3rd one will return to the gallows. Meredith's happy about this, of course. She's like, yes, great. My mages are back where they're supposed to be. But Hawk can either choose to be like, yeah, cool, I'm cool with it too, or be like, hey, you're not a good Templar. You need to stop doing this to the mages. You know, kind of furthering the divide or trying to keep the peace. And then either Meredith or Orsino can request that Hawk come to the gallows, because they've learned that mages have been sneaking out, and that there's going to be some sort of apostate meeting at midnight in Hightown. Hawk learns first by eavesdropping and then actually getting involved a bit, that there are a ton of Templars and mages working together to try to improve relations between the Circle and the Templar Order, which is a good thing, you know. Thrask, our buddy from earlier on, is spearheading this movement. Now, unfortunately, because of how severe things get, the mages and Templars will actually kidnap either Hawk's sibling, if they're alive, or their romance interest, to try to make sure that Hawk cooperates with them. And after a bit of fighting to get them back, Hawk will turn the mages and Templars over to Cullen. And then when Hawk goes to check back in with Meredith and Orsino, you know, they're glad that it's dealt with, but they're also like, there's no way that Thrask was the only one behind this. We're convinced this is much bigger than it actually is. Which, you know, paranoia gets to the best of us, I guess. With all of the heated debates going on with the mages and Templars, Grand Cleric Althena summons, this is not Grand Cleric Althena, but she summons Hawk to the Chantry to meet with Sister Nightingale, because Divine Justinian V in Orlais is getting very concerned about the Mage Templar situation. And there are now rumors of an exalted march, potentially, for Kirkwall if things don't get better. So Grand Cleric Althena says, hey, go talk to the Divine's agent, Sister Nightingale. And we discover that it's Leliana. Hawk recognizes Leliana because they were all in Lothering together way back before Origins. But they meet in the Viscount's Keep. Some aggressive mages attack before Leliana shows up, but she helps finish the fight. And Leliana basically warns Hawk, like, hey, there's war coming if things don't get better. Also, get Grand Cleric Althena out of here so that she stays safe. We want her in Val Royeaux. Althena does not leave, though. She does not. So, you know, things are kind of at an all-time high, a bit of a boiling point. And at one point, Hawk is sent to try to intervene between Meredith and Orsino. Oop, didn't want to go there yet. They're accusing each other of terrible things. This is down in Lowtown. Meredith is saying that Orsino's harboring blood mages. Orsino is saying, oh, you're just trying to discredit us. You're trying to make false accusations because you want to justify the treatment that you're giving us. And while this is happening, Anders is like, hey, I don't think compromise is going to happen, and triggers an explosion. And the Chantry is blown up, and everyone in the Chantry dies. So instantly, Meredith calls for the Rite of Annulment, which, if you remember from Origins, is basically a Templar's right to purge a circle of magi if it's too far gone and beyond saving from corruption or blood magic or demon possession. And then Hawke has a moment where they have to choose either to support Meredith and the Templars, and basically say, yeah, we're going to execute all of these mages, or to support Orsino, which would basically say, yeah, we're going to make sure the mages live. But unfortunately, that means then Templars are going to be slaughtered for trying to do their duty, which there's no win-win in this situation. I think most people side with the mages, including me. So once a choice is made, Hawke then has to make a choice about Anders. Do we kill Anders or do we spare him? If you choose to spare Anders, Sebastian's like, peace, I'm out. I can't support this. The Chantry meant everything to me. Grand Cleric Athena was like a mother to me. Which, understandable, but also Sebastian clearly was not paying attention to the politics of the situation. So then Hawke and the party have to fight through Kirkwall to get to the gallows, because that's where the majority of the fighting is happening between the mages and the Templars. Once there, Orsino, regardless of who you side with, Orsino is going to turn himself into a harvester, which we saw in Origins. Really gruesome abomination of sorts. His whole thought process is, this is a last-ditch effort to save everyone, to keep people alive. If I can sacrifice myself to keep others alive, that's a good thing. And either you're fighting him if you side with the Templars, or you're fighting alongside him to save the mages. Unfortunately, you do kind of have to fight him anyways because he gets out of control. And then after that, Meredith is convinced she needs to execute Hawke because she's like, oh, Hawke started all of this. This is all Hawke's fault. And we discover that she has a red lyrium sword forged from the red lyrium idol that she bought from Bartrand. And because of this, it's driving her mad. Cullen tries to relieve her of command, and Meredith attacks everyone, Templars, mages alike. Hawke defeats her by breaking the red lyrium sword, but that in turn turns Meredith into a red lyrium statue, which honestly is what she deserves. And so at the close of this, the story of the Battle of Kirkwall starts to spread across Thedas. Other circles around Thedas are rebelling and disbanding, which officially starts the Mage Templar War that we see pick up in Inquisition. And then we flash to Varric and Cassandra. Varric concludes his story. Cassandra now realizes the state of the world is not Hawke's fault. It's Meredith and it's Anders, etc. But the Chantry has been trying to find Hawke. But Varric doesn't know where Hawke is at this point, post-game. So Cassandra releases Varric, says you're free to go. We're no longer interrogating you. And goes outside to find Leliana. So that they can determine their next course of action, because they've not been able to find the Warden, the hero Ferelden, and now they can't find Hawke, the champion of Kirkwall. So that is the conclusion of Dragon Age 2. I probably should have done this in a slightly different order because I have some like miscellaneous things from Act 3. Fun fact, Aveline and Donnic can get married to each other. If you didn't do their quest line in Act 2, they don't, but that's okay. And at some point, Aveline will also learn about some complaints being lodged against her, which turns out it's her former boss, Jevin, trying to get her ousted as like an act of revenge. Oh yeah, there's Sebastian, Aveline. Fenris will meet eventually his sister Verania, where they discuss his past. Daenerys appears, they fight him, kill him. And then Fenris has the option to kill his sister too, but if he doesn't, he'll learn more about his past, and that he actually willingly got his lyrium tattoos in order to free his sister and mother from slavery. Meryl needs further help with her Illuvian, and so she goes to Sundermount, where there's a spirit trapped that can help her. But it turns out the Keeper released it and let it possess her to take on the price of Meryl's blood magic for her. The Keeper attacks the party. Meryl has to kill her because she's turned into an abomination, which this just utterly crushes Meryl. And so it's just a rough story for her. But Anders, pre-Chantry explosion, claims he's trying to make a potion to separate Justice from himself. We know that's not true. He's lying. And if Hawke figures that out, they'll question him on it. But if Hawke decides to help him with his project, it'll be Hawke distracting the Grand Cleric while Anders puts bombs in place, essentially. Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you, Zlo. Yeah, if with Meryl, after you kill the Keeper, if you tell the clan that the Keeper's dead, the entire Dalish clan will turn on Meryl and you have to kill them. I believe it's only if you tell them that Marethari is dead, though. If you don't, they're okay and they're just gonna go look for Marethari. I believe that's how that plays out. But it's rough regardless on Meryl. She's not okay after all that. Yeah, I must have gotten these images mixed up. This is supposed to be the Delirium one. With Varric, he's been trying to sell Bartrand's estate after all of that happened. But it's possibly haunted, so he takes Hawke to check it out. And after fighting some demons and whatnot, Varric finds a fragment of the Lyrium idol, picks it up and is holding it and starts to go a little crazy just from holding this fragment. Keeps saying that he wants to keep it to understand what Bartrand did better. Hawke can let him keep it or can convince him to get rid of it, and in getting rid of it, Hawke can just toss it or can have Sandal work with it and make something out of it, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of the big stuff. I know I missed I'm just realizing I missed the conclusion of Fainrail's story, the half-elf. But I know that he ends up kind of going crazy and ends up in the circle, even if he was with the Dalish clan. I'm blanking on what all happens with that, though. I think you have to go into the Fade for that because he's a dreamer. But couple quick things. I realized we didn't cover any romances. I didn't have time to do too much with the romances, but there are 5 romanceable characters. Anders is one of them. Meryl is one of them. Fenris, Aveline, and Sebastian. They're all romanceable. Varric is not, unfortunately. Aveline's not. Why did I say Aveline? I meant to say Isabella. I don't have a picture of Isabella here, though, because I didn't have a quest image for her. If you do, he's semi-romance a hostage later in a later mission. Oh. You can also have him go to Deventer. Interesting. I didn't realize that. Huh. That's definitely something I've not come across before. Thank you for that. But yeah, so that's all of that. Before I get into Legacy, the final portion of our recap, because that's arguably the most important part of the recap, aside from Meredith, which I meant to actually, no, that'll be included on Saturday, I think. Never mind. I was gonna say something about Absolution, the Netflix show, but that'll be Saturday. Before we dive into Legacy, is there anything else that I've missed with Act 1, 2, or 3 that y'all are like, this is important, how dare you miss it? Anything at all? I'm going to take the silence as a no. And we're going to dive into Legacy. Such a good quest line. I'm just going to put some chapstick on though real quick. This will be a super condensed summary of Legacy, but I'm glad it's thorough for y'all, because I'm like, believe me, I've been so scatterbrained. I'm like, I know I'm missing stuff, but probably only missing the non-important stuff. So the Legacy DLC, this, like the Mark of the Assassin, can be accessed at any point in the game, but most people are like, yeah, don't do it till Act 3. And it's best if you have Bethany or Carver as a warden, because then it's pretty easy to take them along with you if you want. I like to play it during like early Act 3 personally. But we start off with Hawke interacting with the Griffin statue in their home. This can either be in Gamlen's house or in the Hawke estate. And it triggers a scene with Cassandra and Varric again. Cassandra tells Varric basically, hey, the Chantry was looking into a chasm in the Vimmark Mountains, but they were turned away by Grey Wardens. What's up with that? And Varric's like, oh, well, yeah, here's the story. So cuts to the Vimmark Mountains. Varric is explaining to Hawke that they've arrived at the Carta hideout, which they need to look into because the Carta has been targeting Hawke as well as their sibling, if their sibling's still alive. And so they fight their way through the Carta base. There's so much to the Carta base. It's massive. So we're glossing over it. But the one thing that we see consistently throughout the Carta base is these dwarves are obsessed with someone named Corypheus. And that they seem to be bound to the will of Corypheus. Like, they can't do anything but whatever Corypheus wants them to do. After fighting through the Carta dwarves, defeating them, Hawke will find on the final Carta dwarf something called the Hawke's Key. The Hawke's Key can show up in different ways. Depending on your class, it will be a weapon that fits your class. So if you're a mage, it'll be a staff. If you're a rogue, it'll be I don't know if you can do it as a dagger, but I know you can do it as a bow. I've seen it as a bow. And then I imagine if you're a warrior, it shows up as a sword of some sort. But it is, it's a weapon that's different based on whatever class Hawke is. After fighting through the Carta, they come across a tower. I think there's the tower. Okay. There's a lot going on down here. There's like some stuff to Dumat and other like forgotten old gods of Tevinter and all that, which is kind of weird. But Hawke and co make their way up this tower. It turns out it's an ancient warden prison tower. They battle their way up to the top. On the way up, they are fighting Darkspawn and dwarves, and they meet two very interesting people, Larius and Janica. Or Janeca. I think it's Janica. I'm gonna hit snooze on our ads so that we don't have to deal with that right now, because I don't want to deal with ads in the middle of Legacy, you know? But so Hawke learns specifically from Larius that their father, Malcolm Hawke, was a mage who worked with Larius and the Wardens to basically reinforce this tower, the seals on this tower, to make sure that Corypheus couldn't get out. Corypheus, you learn, is a very powerful and ancient darkspawn. And Janica is like, well, why don't you help us? Because we want to free Corypheus. He actually could be a really powerful weapon against the Blight. Corypheus seems to want to stop the Blight, possibly. Now, this sounds like a great thing, right? Especially when we know about talking Darkspawn, like the Architect. Architect had good intentions. However, Larius is like, hey, I'm pretty sure they're under Corypheus's thrall. Corypheus is just telling them to do this. And that Hawke should actually go up and free Corypheus to kill him. Either choice that you make, whether you choose to follow Janica or Larius, will lead you to the top of the tower where Corypheus is. This is his prison at the very tippy top. A lot of griffin statues and whatnot, and lots of magic involved with this, specifically blood magic from Malcolm Hawke. That's why our Hawke is brought here, because we need Hawke blood to break open these seals that hold Corypheus. So, Hawke breaks the seals, uses the Hawke key to break the final seal. And this lovely gentleman shows up, named Corypheus. He's very out of sorts because he's waking up from like being asleep for a long time at this point. Yes, he's had some sort of control over the Carta and the Wardens, but he's not been like awake and conscious of it all, you know? So he's very out of sorts. He's talking about like, oh, Tevinter Magister this, blah, 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 that. Wondering what Larius is, because he doesn't look human, but he doesn't look like a darkspawn. Is he a dwarf of some sort? There's a lot of confusion going on. Corypheus is not himself. And in this moment, Hawke learns a little bit more about Corypheus and how he was a Tevinter Magister who broke into the Fade, blah, 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 blah. And then Corypheus attacks. It's a really long, hard battle, but Corypheus is defeated. And we see like explosion of light and magic as Corypheus dies, which should have been a red flag. But Larius then thanks Hawke, because when we first met Larius, he was looking pretty rough. He had already been here for a long time because he was hearing the calling. He was kind of half darkspawn already from the calling. But he thanks Hawke for his freedom because he no longer hears Corypheus's voice. So he's free from the calling, right? And he leaves, but there's something, I don't remember if Hawke specifically noticed it or if it's something more that you as the player notice. Larius's voice is very different, very even and calm and confident. So clearly, seeing Corypheus's spirit leave his body, and then suddenly a warden nearby gets up and sounds different, thanking for his freedom. It's very clear that Corypheus is Larius now. Larius is the vessel for Corypheus, and that's why Corypheus shows up when he does in Inquisition. It's something you notice as well as the smirk as he walks away. Yeah. I feel like Hawk can definitely make a comment about it, maybe. I could be wrong about that, though. I was watching somebody play Dragon Age 2 today, actually, like a VOD of someone's stream. And they had just gotten to this, and they were like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, Corypheus clearly didn't die. Mine didn't, but my Hawk was not the most observant. That's fair. So wow, we're only at the 2-hour mark for stream. I flew through all of that. Did I miss anything, y'all? Is there anything you're like, you have questions about? Because like, if we finished it, that's fine. I'm gonna roll with it. But I also feel like I'm like, did I rush through it? I don't know. Made mine a redhead. You know what the Avar say about that? So true. My first Hawk was also a redhead, so I feel that. And also all of my Inquisitors have been redheads. But yeah, that is the conclusion of Dragon Age 2. So we've summed up the lore and the story. I feel like maybe not quite as put together as Origins, but Origins has so much more to it. Dragon Age 2, while a very good story, has less meat and substance to it, which is fine. I think it's a good transition game, personally. I feel like it's a good second game in a trilogy. Because it sets everything up for Inquisition. It's shorter compared to Origins. Yeah, exactly. It's just a game length thing for sure. Yeah. Definitely. But I feel like the story is it still feels like a complete story for sure, you know? I think that's why I like it a lot. Because I feel like games that are short that don't feel like complete story-wise are not fun. But Dragon Age 2 just feels so much fun to me, you know? But yeah. Let me know, chat, if there's anything I missed or things you have questions about. We got so much coming for Inquisition on Saturday, because we're going to be not only talking about the game, but also a lot of the external media. Like tonight we talked about Dragon Age Redemption, the mini-series, the mini web series, but like that's the only one that relates to Dragon Age 2. With Inquisition, we've got like 3 other books to talk through. We've got Absolution to talk through. There's Tevinter Nights, which I don't know if we'll really get too much into those because I've not finished reading Tevinter Nights. There's a lot of external media in Dragon Age that relates to Inquisition. And having not played DLC, Inquisition makes more sense. Because every time Varric said we fought Corypheus, I was like, when did that happen? Yeah. I know so many people who have played Inquisition first and then they go back to Dragon Age 2. I'm so glad I played all of Dragon Age 2 plus DLC before Inquisition, because I feel like I appreciated that so much more. I actually at some point I should go back to my first Inquisition playthrough, find the VOD and see what my reaction was, because that would have been my first time seeing all of that. I wonder if I would have even realized what was happening at the time, you know? That'll be interesting to go back and find sometime. But I guess with that, it feels like a short stream, but it's not a bad thing. I think we're gonna call it here in a minute, because we've gone through all of Dragon Age 2. We've had the music playing in the background. I love listening to the Dragon Age 2 soundtrack. We didn't even get through the whole thing. But I think that with that, we're gonna call it. I'm gonna go relax for the rest of my evening, and then we're deep diving. I guess a couple housekeeping things. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're deep diving into Inquisition and the lore, as well as external Dragon Age media, which we've just discussed. But then Monday, the 28th, I am doing a music stream of all of the Tavern and Bard songs from Dragon Age Inquisition. I'll be pulling the keyboard out over here and playing and singing. And then a week from today, Veilguard's out. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I also found out today, so I pre-ordered the Rook's Coffer collector's set from Dragon Age, and that arrives on Tuesday. I can't wait. I can't wait. But yeah, so very exciting things. Thanks for the stream. Gotta crash since I actually gotta go to the office tomorrow. Yeah, go get some sleep, y'all. Thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight and making this super fun. Real quick, just gonna post my links in chat. Y'all know what to do with those. And I will see you all on Saturday. Alrighty. Thanks, y'all. Bye.